Hi, this is Alimayo Arango of ArangoDigitalProduction.com, and I want to show you something pretty interesting today. I've heard of people making low-cost green screens. I've heard of people showing all kinds of different techniques of how to get wrinkles out of green screens. Today I want to show you how to make a science fiction video with no green screen inside of Blender 2.70a. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with Left. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe programs or other 3D programs. Also, if you happen to be on a laptop instead of a computer with a full keyboard, if you put a check mark right here where it says Emulate Number Pad, this will simulate the keys when I say 1 that takes you into front view on the full keyboard, 3 that takes you in the side view, or 7 that takes you in the top view on the full keyboard. What this will do is make the keys at the top of your laptop keyboard emulate those keys. I almost forgot. Go back into File, User Preferences, go to Add-ons, and go about halfway down your list in add-ons, and make sure that you have a check mark right here in this add-on as import images as planes. Okay, how this tutorial, the idea for this tutorial actually came about is kind of interesting. We had a family get together last Saturday, and basically what happened is my Uncle Jimmy was saying that he had a great interest in special effects, and actually, I'll show you a picture. This is my Uncle Jimmy right here. This is my dad, and this is our family friend James right here. And basically, my Uncle Jimmy was saying he had a great interest in special effects. My dad has actually been in numerous effects videos already. But anyway, I was telling him, with Blender you could do amazing things. That Blender was an open source program, and just all the amazing things that Blender could do. And I looked at the shade of the color of my dad's house, which is behind him, and I realized that this actually might work pretty good as a green screen. So basically, our little family barbecue ended up turning into doing action shots for a science fiction, short science fiction film with fighters and all kinds of other stuff. Okay, and that get together. This ended up being the shots that we took, and basically what this is here is Uncle Jimmy, my dad, and Mr. James here, just doing different things right here. This is different shots we could take. So when they're in the fighter ship, here's again, these are shots for when they're flying in their fighter ship. Here's just multiple views of them running in different directions, running to the side, running back, running forward. And then we actually did a couple scenes where we had them close-ups and different angles on them punching. As a matter of fact, if you guys end up liking this tutorial a lot, maybe we can get into that in the future. Some different camera angles and stuff you can take. And this was shot on my my Samsung Note 3 phone. And these are the basic assets we're going to be using in this video. Here's the shot we're going to be using. This is my dad here. We're going to be using this basic shot of outer space here, and we're going to be using this 3D model from Blendswap. And if you guys don't know about it, this is Blendswap here. Blendswap is a website where you can download free Blender models. It's a great site. You have to sign up for it. It's totally worth it. And Blender users come on here, they make their models, and they give them away for free. Pretty much almost always they allow you to use them commercially as well as privately, so pretty amazing. The ship that we're using is can be found right here on Blendswap. By Chris Kuhn is the one who did the model, and the new one up here now, I guess I had downloaded before this. The materials are by Carlos, the name right here, the last name right here you can see. But you can get that model on Blendswap, that the model that we're going to be using for this this video. Okay, and as far as the footage, just so you can see, there it is. There's no green screen. This is my dad's house behind him. So if you want to go follow along with this tutorial, I recommend you try to find something that is, you're better off with something blue, or you're better off with something totally green. This is kind of like a bluish, light blue green color, but take a short video clip. I mean, what is this? This is about 9 seconds long. You could do it on a wall. You could even go as far as having somebody that has a green t-shirt actually stand behind somebody and take your camera phone and shoot it on there. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to key out the footage. So the way we're going to do that is you're going to go right here. You're going to click right here and you're going to look for where it says Movie Clip Editor. You're going to click Movie Clip Editor. And once you get to Movie Clip Editor, you're going to look for your footage. And I'm just going through Blender's browsing system. If you click right here, you'll actually be able to see what you're looking at. So here's the footage we want right here. So you're just going to click here and click open to bring it in. So here's the footage. Now the reason why we brought this footage into here first is basically when you are going to key something, you're better off, and key just is a fancy way of saying you're going to make this blue turn transparent. All right. Once it's transparent, you can do all kinds of tricks on it. But when you key something, you only want to key what's necessary. So this little panel right here and this stuff around here, it really isn't. We really don't want that in the shot. I mean, even though it's not that much, it's better. We're better off taking it off or out of the shot. Typically, when you see effects films and they key something out, they put something on it which is called a garbage mask. And basically what that means is you cut off all of the outside areas. So that's what we're going to do right now. So once you come into the movie clip editor, just like I showed you, and you load your footage in, you see where it says tracking here? You're going to click this and you're going to select mask. All right, once you select this, what you're going to do is you're going to hold control. And this is important here. You're going to go in a counterclockwise fashion, all right? So I'm holding down control. I'm going to click my right mouse button and I'm going to click here. There's my first mask point. I'm still holding control down. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here. Click here and click here. All right. So I held down control the whole time and I right clicked with my mouse button. Now to close this mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Alt C. So I'm holding Alt, hit C, and then you can see the mask closed. The reason why you want to do this in a counterclockwise fashion rather than just doing it either way is you know what, I'm going to try not to ramble on. Just do it in a counterclockwise fashion. When you put your points in, the reason that I put this extra point in here is so that we can animate this mask. So basically, while we're in here, I can pull here and I can see the footage moving. All right. So basically, what you want to do is to make this mask animatable. Is you're going to click right here. Now, when I click this button, you'll see it go gray. It means that every single time I move a part of this mask, a keyframe is going to be put into the timeline. So right now what I'm going to do is pull this pretty tight. So I'm just going to click here. I'm just clicking with my left mouse, clicking and dragging, right? A cool way to not let these small points be annoying to you is this. Blender's select methods, even when you're in 3D or the video sequence editor or in the mask, they carry over. So in Blender, you can select 3D by hitting the C key and you can paint select, right? Paint select is pretty effective here. So we're going to hit C. And that you can see here's the paint select area of influence. So if I roll my mouse, it gets smaller. If I roll it up, it gets bigger. Let me see if page down. Nope, that doesn't work in here. Okay. But anyway, if you roll your mouse, you can increase or decrease the area. I'm going to click right here. Once it's selected, I'm going to right click, then I'm going to hit G. And I'm just going to pull this mask piece in. This piece is, I guess, still selected. So that's why it's moving. So I'm going to just click here and drag. And I'm just going to set these points a little bit closer. So now I'm just clicking G and grabbing. So now I'll move the timeline indicator. All right, so I'm going to try to make this be as close as it can be to my dad's head here without, cutting off pieces of his body. So I'll move here, move it a little bit closer. I'm just clicking, holding G, click, hold G, and move. All right, so now I'm right clicking to drag the timeline. All right, so now he's coming back. So see, he's about to break that line there. So what I'll do is left click here, hold G, move to the side, right click to move the timeline. See if he breaks that top. He's not. No, he's leaning. He's about to break it here. So what I'm going to do here is hit left click, hold G, or push G, not hold, click and drag. So I pushed G one time, I didn't hold down. And I'm just, when I let go of G, and it kind of like holds onto here. So I'm just pulling and holding, moving the timeline. Okay, so now when I scrub back through here, and that's what it's called when you move the timeline, it's scrubbing. See how that mask is animating? And the reason why the mask is animating, again, because I clicked right here, which is the auto animate button. So every time I made a movement, the mask, animate. Very useful. Actually, before I got into Blender, I was heavily into After Effects, and the fact that you can do this in Blender is pretty amazing. Because before, I guess it was Blender 2.64. It was kind of difficult to do this, but anyway, just appreciate it. I mean, it's awesome that that Blender can do this. Okay, so now that we have our mask set up, here's the mask right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click. I'm going to name this mask, and I'm going to name this Dad's mask. All right, so now we have the mask named here. So now what I'm going to do, with everything set up in here, I am going to click here, and I'm going to go into the node editor. Okay, once you come into the node editor, you'll see here, and you typically come in on the materials button. This isn't the button you want. You want this button right here. This is the button that's going to let you composite. So you're going to click right here. Once this pops in, you're going to see these two nodes pop up. I'm just left clicking and dragging right here to move these to the side a little bit. And basically what you're going to do, for the purposes of what we're doing currently right now, you don't need the renders layer. So I'm going to left click on this. I'm going to hit X just to delete that. All right. So now that we're on to, you're right here, the compositing node, you're going to click use nodes. Just put a check mark right here. And now we're just going to add in some nodes to use to allow us to key that footage. Okay, and as I show you these nodes, I'm going to try to explain them to you as I bring them in to make it not too confusing. Don't let the node editor blow your mind if this is your first time seeing it. First time I saw it, it reminded me of some kind of weird Borg wire setup, and my wife actually learned how to do it, making a 3D Earth, and she explained it to me as being like Photoshop laying on its side, and that helped me to make it through. So anyway, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to Add, you're going to go to Input, and then you're going to go to Movie Clip. So what this is going to do is this is going to actually bring our movie in. So what we're going to do is open, we're going to find your footage. So remember, you click here, you can see your footage. This is the footage we want. And bring that in. Now, I don't want you to get confused. So we brought this footage in for the movie clip. The movie clip editor is attached, but it's attached to this, but also in a weird way, it almost seems like it isn't attached. Even though we brought it in the movie clip editor, and there is a connection between this and the movie clip editor, in a sense, we still need to bring it in again. So yes, you brought it in the movie clip editor, and now you're bringing it in yet again a second time as a movie clip inside of the node editor. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is you're going to click Add. You're going to go to Output, and then you're going to select the viewer. Okay, when you bring this viewer in, the way you connect nodes, I'll try to zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. And you can just click. You can click the nodes. You can hit G, and they'll move. You can see when they're highlighted orange is when they're selected. All right. So we're going to go from the image of the movie clip into the viewer. So with this movie clip here, contains the movie, and then this viewer allows us to see it. So when you click backdrop here, now the movie clip actually pops up. To make this smaller so you can control it, you're going to hit V. V will make this movie clip get smaller. Alt V will allow this movie clip to get bigger. All right, so V makes it smaller, Alt V makes it bigger. Okay, and what this composite does, this composite is actually what is going to output this. This is going to this composite allows us to output this video once it's done into either an MPEG or an image sequence, which is what we're actually going to do. So you can output an image sequence or you can output a movie. That's what this composite is here to do. So actually what we're going to do is this viewer is just here to allow you to see what you're working on. So you click here, drag this to your composite, and again, the composite is going to be actually what outputs the movie. Okay, so now we need a keying node. So we're going to get that. So you need this right here. Here's your keying node right here. So what we're going to do is you're just going to move this up. And I forget, I tell you what, a lot of times going back and forth between modeling, between rigging, between compositing, it's just enough time for me to forget and to have to relearn. There is all kinds of cool ways. The last time I was in a node editor and I did a tutorial, people told me all kinds of very cool things, which of course I currently can't think of. But the easy way, rather than doing these cool things they showed me, is you can just unselect here, right? Come right from your image output, right? You're going to go into your image, and then you're going to run this into your viewer and into your compositor. Now you see how this is right here. It's it's already trying to key, but it's transparent. That's because this keying node basically takes the color of the whatever's behind. So if it was a green screen, you would take the green. Here it's a turquoise house. So what we're going to do is click this color node. We're going to grab this dot right here and we're going to move to where it looks like we get a decent key. Alright, so just from appearance, just from moving there, it doesn't look like a bad key, and hopefully you guys are amazed as I was when I saw this. We don't have a green screen here again. This is a house. We're using the house. So here we are, getting ready to set this effects scene with no green screen, and the coolness of that. Like just think of it this way. You could, because Blender is good enough to do this. I mean, it's amazing that it can key this well. You could have somebody on a green or blue van, and you could shoot your camera on a van. Now am I saying to do that rather than have a green screen? You have it. No, I'm not saying that. However, just so you know that it's possible. We have good lighting because we're outside, and it allows us to use the house. But it could be a van. It could be somebody's shirt. Some of the other scenes we shot when we did this were a shed. So just pretty cool. But anyway, let's go on. Okay, just from looks, this looks like a pretty decent key, like a fairly decent key. But you don't want to just look and trust your eyes. And what you do to not trust your eyes is you hold Shift and Control, and then you left click this keying. All right, and basically what this keying is showing you is this is showing you this white right here basically is everything that is visible, and the black is everything that is not visible. All right, now one of the things that's interesting, again, we shot it on the house. You can see the shingles in the house, so you can see that there are white lines for where the black is, and it didn't key them. The cool thing is that even with those mistakes, again, why it's not perfect, it's not an ideal setup. For the most part, you can't really see these lines too much, and that actually surprised me. Anyway, what you want is you want this to be totally white, and you want all of this to be totally white and all of this to be totally black. Okay, and with this keying nodes, I mean, there's a lot of very cool things that you can do to to fine-tune this. I don't want to get too deep with this tutorial. So basically, the main thing I want you to focus on is the clip black and the clip white. The clip white is the thing that's going to take away this gray, and this gray is these aren't totally visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull back this clip white, and you see as we're pulling it back, you see how it's taking that away. And you want to be careful. The key is that the house worked very good as a key, surprisingly. Sometimes when you do the clip white, other stuff will start popping in, and you have to be careful of that depending on your scene. One thing we can do to help this, as long as we're going to kick up our pre-blur, we'll also take up our screen blur a little bit. And a lot of times, again, this was a family barbecue, that we were, decided to turn it into a little science fiction vid. So, get it so it looks decent. It doesn't have to be perfect. So this right here, we can work with this, all right? Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and Control, and I'm going to left click again. When I left click, it just cycles through these different modes. So you can say, again, it's a fairly different key. Again, key being a fancy word basically for saying make transparent or take this color away, all right? So something else we'll do is we'll add a slight feather to the edge. We'll just do, let's see. It's actually, oh man, it actually amazes me how good it turned out. But anyway, for this, it's just so you know about this dilate erode. Typically, the thing that's going to make your image look fake is the fact that the edges are too sharp. So this feather distance, when you click here, this will feather the edges, right? I'm going to take up the feather distance and do this just so you can see this. See how this is getting white? If it starts to get white here, what you can do is look at this dilate erode, and you can click this, and what it'll do is you see how it's pulling in the pixels from that edge. And it's basically taking away that line that would make this look fake. Again, it's surprising how well this keyed out because the black lines are actually right here. So it really doesn't even look like we need to mask too much, the garbage mask that we put on. But you do need to know how to do this. This is important. So again, I'm going to hold Control Shift, and by holding Control Shift and left clicking, it allows you to cycle through these modes. You can see right there, there's the black line. So what we're going to do is we are going to add in a mask node. All right, so this is what's going to connect us to that previous movie editor that we were in. All right, so I'm going to click here and a second, F mask. I thought I named that mask. I'm just going to click here, go back very quickly to movie clip editor. That's mask. I guess I named the mask layer. I was thinking I named the mask. This should be naming the mask right here. All right, so I'm just going to click here, go back to the node editor. Now when I click, there we go, Dad's mask right here. All right, so what we're going to do here is now that we clicked here and it says Dad's mask, which is the mask that we made to cut out the outsides. What we're going to do now is we're going to grab from here and we're going to put this into the garbage mat here. All right. Now you see how that made it disappear. Don't let that bother you. We're going to fix that, and the way that we're going to fix that is we're going to bring in an invert node. So we're going to go back to add. We're going to take this invert. I'm going to pull this out over a little bit. Now we're going to we're going to take this invert node. We're going to plug this into the color node. And then we're going to plug this, go from the color node, from the invert node, from the color output, we're going to plug this into the garbage node. And basically what you see there is, it brought it back. And basically it's hard to see it from this footage, but what it did was it would cut off the background. Now this footage was 1280 by 720, and if you look right here, you can see the footage here is 1920 by 1080. So what we're going to do is change this to HD TV 720. And after you do that, if you don't see a change here, if you don't see it change, you might have to unplug from your viewer, and just to get it to refresh, and then just replug it in, and now you should have your mask and everything should be, should look right as far as your scale. If by some chance you still have a problem as far as your mask cutting off your footage, you can go to Add, go to Distort, go to Scale, and I was advised, to get a very good key, you're probably better off keying and then scaling later, but I don't want to get too complicated on you guys. But anyway, you can click this scale and you can go to render size. I'm going to hit Shift D, which is just like Blender's regular duplicate this scale and put it here, and put render size. Now here, the reason why I did this was to show you guys I didn't have a problem here, but I have had problems in the past where I had footage that didn't match up, and I just wanted you to see this, that if you did, again, I didn't have a problem with the scale size, but I wanted you to see that if you did have a problem, you could go to, add, distort, grab the scale node, put it for render size, and it should fix it. fix your your scale problem if you had one. And now what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through the footage just to make sure nothing's popping out in a weird way, and it looks good. So with the footage looking good and nothing looking strange, and you can see I'm glad I did this for you to see it. See how my footage goes beyond the 250. Blender's normal default is 250 frames, and this right here we're running on 24 frames a second. Actually, the footage is 29.7. You want to make sure that your footage matches up with your settings in Blender, and this is how you can do it. But you also what you want to do is look to see how long your footage is. And my footage is, let's see, okay, so 168. It's done. Like even numbers, so I'll cut it off at 266. So see how this is, it says start 1 here and then end 250. All you would do is just click this and put in 266 so that it matches your footage, right? Okay, so now that we have this, our setup set up here, we have our footage keyed out, right? What we want to do is put this out as PNG files, and there's a reason for that, which you'll see in a minute. And these are the settings where you can render it out. You want to be right here on your render button for Blender. You're going to change this image editor to a new window, and the main reason for this is just so that when you render, you don't close Blender by accident. You want to make sure that you have your settings set up for your footage. So my footage was 1280 by 720p. This right here is 100% of the compression. I mean 100% of the footage being shown, the size. So you want to make sure that's set for 100. You want to make sure that you have your frame rate set for what it was shot at. Mine was 29.97. You then want to come down, and this is just my recommendations for this. You want to make sure you know where your footage is going to go. So you look where this says output. This is where your footage is actually going to output out to. So you're going to click this folder, and you're going to make sure that you know where your footage is going. I'm going to make a folder now called a video output. And this is actually going to be PNGs. So, actually, you know what? I'll come up here. I'm going to make another folder. I'm going to name this PNG output, because this folder here is going to be filled up with a bunch of PNGs, a whole lot of PNGs. So you want to click inside of that PNG output, because this is going to be filled up with all these PNGs, right? Then you're going to click accept, all right? And because we're exporting this out as PNGs, pretty much that's all you need. Make sure you're on RGBA, and this makes sure that your footage is going to have an alpha channel with that PNG, so that you'll have your transparent background, which is what you're going to need to do this effect that we're going for. Okay, and with all that set up, what you're going to do is you're going to come back up here. Yep, that's all good. You can leave the compression for that, that's fine. You're going to come back up here, you're going to select animate or animation. And this is, oh, wait a second. Oh, you caught me, I made a mistake. Ugh. Yeah, I made a mistake, and when I started doing the PNGs, as soon as I saw the house still behind it, I'm like, okay, you're better off just stopping it and restarting. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I saw that it messed up, is here's my PNG folder. I click here, you can see here are my first PNGs being spit out, messed up because there's a house still in the background. So what I'm going to do is click here. I'm then going to create a new directory. I'm going to put a PNG output 2. Don't have to do that, it's just I find it easier. I made the mistake, so I'm just going to make a new folder. Click here, then click accept. So when I fix this mistake, I can start over and have it know that it's going to the right folder. So one of the things what I probably should have said to you for you to do before you started outputting your PNGs is just click here, click render image right here. And this allows you to see. So here is the problem. We're seeing right here the house is still there. And we go and we look, and when I look, I can see right here where it says composite, it says use alpha. All of this king stuff, the purpose of it was to get rid of the background. Yet I don't have click use alpha right here. So when I click this, my guess is now I'll go to render image. And sure enough, here is the checkerboard pattern, which shows that we have our transparency, which is what we want. Now we should be good. And now we will go back and we'll hit animation again. Remember, I changed it to a second folder so that all of these PNGs will be new in the second folder. So now we're going to hit render. We're going to hit render area. We're going to select animation again, and now we can see it's rendering out with our checkered background like we want it to. And now that stuff just finished rendering out. So here's my folder right here. Here's my messed up PNGs, the first few. I'm going to just delete this folder right here. Here's my good PNG, and basically you can see right here, these are all PNG files that just rendered out, and that white is showing to have a transparent background, which is what we want. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to File, New, Reload Startup File, and I find it's just easier to do a new startup file than using the old one. Because basically Blender did its job. We rendered out our PNGs. Now we're starting basically a new project. So what you're going to want to do now that you are back here back in a new Blender file is now all of this stuff is reset. So I'm going to change this to 29.7. I'm going to reset this to HDTV 720. Pull this out so you can see this. The next time we render out, we're actually going to be rendering out a video. I'm going to change this to 29.7, and I am going to change this PNG to H.264. The encoding, I'm going to change this from AVI to MPEG-4, and if we add in music, you would click this audio codec where it says none. You would select here and check MP3. And then just like before, here's the output. This time I am going to click here. And remember we had made up a video output. So I'm going to click here and click accept. All right, so now what we want to do is Blender, when you start off in Blender, you are in the normal Blender renderer. The Blender renderer is great for some things. However, Blender has another renderer in it, and the renderer is basically fancy. The renderer outputs images and video for you. So the Blender Cycles renderer that's included with Blender, when you select here, this gives you extremely realistic lighting. Without getting into it, Cycles tends to make things look beautiful. So you want to be in the Cycles renderer. If you happen to have an NVIDIA, I think it's a NVIDIA 650 and up. I'm not sure the exact specifications. If you have a NVIDIA card in your computer, you can try making sure you're in the render button, coming to where it says CPU, and changing this to GPU. As a matter of fact, I think you might have to go to File, User Preferences, System, and then change this from none to your NVIDIA card. So I have a GeForce GT 650, so I can change the card. If you happen to have the NVIDIA card, at least try doing this. And basically what this does is this makes Cycles run a lot faster as it renders. While we're here, you can change this image editor to new window. Again, this just tends to be when you try a render out that it doesn't, you don't close Windows by accident, or close Blender by accident, I mean. Okay, while we're setting this up, I'm not sure if you didn't save it, you would have to go again to File, User Preferences, go to Input, Add-ons, or not, you would go to File, User Preferences, Add-ons, you would go down and make sure that you have import images as planes. They'll just make things a lot easier for you. As far as other Cycles settings that I recommend you do, this right here, the sampling, for now you can keep this at 10 and 10. For these light paths, I recommend where it says bounces, you change this down to 4. Take this minimum and change this down to 0. As far as the performance, you guys can give me a tip on this. It does 664 for the tiles. I always change it to 540. There's no particular reason I use 540 other than the fact that makes my tiles bigger, and it seems to run faster as far as exporting out renders. And the light paths actually learned, I believe, from the Blender Guru, and it was settings that he had given Andrew Price, and basically it makes your renders faster, but it doesn't. You really don't. I don't see a visual difference. Anyway, with all that said, now what we want to do is import our PNGs as a plane. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to select this cube. We're going to hit X to delete the cube. Wherever you, whenever you bring something into Blender, it comes in where your 3D cursor is. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Import. We're going to go to Import Images as Planes. You will not see this unless you did the thing where I went to File, User Preferences, Add-ons, and then put a check mark next to Images as Planes. That's why we can see that here. So seeing this here, you're going to click this. Okay, now what you're going to do is you are going to look for your PNG. So here's my Blender has this thing that says recent. This shows me the recent files that I've dealt with in Blender. So here's my PNG output 2. I'm going to click here. This panel allows you to see. So you can see here's my PNGs right here. You want just the first PNG, all right, just the first one. Now before you click it, you want to set this up. And what you want to do is see how it comes in. It starts off as the fuse. You want to select the fuse. You want to select emission and transparent, and then DPI. All right. And what this is going to allow you to do is this will let your images and planes come in with the transparent background, and it'll allow it to, it'll just, this is the settings you want to make it look good. All right. So with these settings set up, again, emission and transparent and DPI selected. Now you're going to select this first PNG right here, and then you're going to go to import images as planes. Okay, typically you see how it looks like nothing came in. Don't let that bother you. For whatever reason, the images as planes, they come in very small. So what you're going to do is when that image came in, it's already selected. All right, you can see it here to select. So what I'm going to do is hit S, and I'm just going to pull. Whoops, I don't want to quite flip. So I'm going to left click. Now I'm just going to hit S again and pull. And now you can see that image, getting bigger there. All right. Now I'm going to hit a 1 on my number keypad, and with that 1 on number keypad, I'm going to hit R to rotate on the X-axis, and then I'm going to hit 9, 0, and then I'm going to left click to lock in. All this did was make the image stand up. And now to see this image, I'm going to click this little triangle right here. I'm going to click and drag down. All right. Don't let this, get to you, me making it look confusing, whatever. All I'm doing is splitting the screen so that, basically right here, we're going to set this for a rendered mode, and that will allow us to see through the camera what we are doing. So I'm going to click here, select here for rendered, and now if you look, you can see there is my dad, in transparent mode, in the rendered mode. And here, the reason why we have this here for rendered mode and this here not is so we have easy control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R to rotate on the Z axis up here. I'm actually going to flip my dad. Actually, let me right click to get out of that. Right click, it's kind of like a Blender's way of almost like a Control Z. I'm going to hit R to rotate on the Z axis 180, and then left click to lock in, and that just flipped my dad in this direction because I want the ship come in that direction just because that's how I want it. Okay, now you see that it's in the direction I want. He has a transparent background. When I move the timeline, you see that there is no movement. It just came in as an image, and now we have to fix that. And actually, praise God, that's pretty easy to fix. So what we're going to do is with the image, so remember, we just brought one image in. So what we're going to do is hold our middle mouse button here. I'm going to click and drag to pull this back. You're going to go right here to your texture panel. And when you click here, see it says image. It says single image here. All right. So again, the material we don't even have to mess with that. We don't even have to mess with the materials. We can go right to the texture button or texture input. Where it says single image, we just click here, change this to image sequence, right? This image I can remember before was 266 images. So we're going to click here. We're going to change this to 266. Okay, now we're going to select this for cyclic. This will just let the movie, once it goes through, I believe, replay. And we're going to change this to auto refresh. Now when we move the timeline, you see how it doesn't show any movement. It's pretty simple. I'm not sure why it does that exactly, but we're going to click here. We're going to go to solid. We're going to click here, go right back to rendered, and now when we move the timeline, there you can see, the video will be in motion, and he is, ready to be put into his ship. Yeah, remember when I told you that wherever the cursor is in Blender is where your image is going to come in at. So the cursor is right here. What we're going to do is we're going to append an assault craft from Chris Kuhn from Blendswap, and that's going to be what my dad is going to be flying in, and that will come right to where this 3D cursor is at. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is, I'm going to put my mouse here, hover it over, and you can see this little arrow. I'm going to grab and pull to shrink this window down a little bit for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Append is what you want. Append, left click. I'm then going to look for the file. If I click here, it gives me some visual clues as to what I'm looking at for my file. So here it is right here. So I want to click this, right? When I click onto this file here, this file takes me at, so I clicked onto the Blendswap, which had the ship that I wanted, right? You see all these different options right here. Just ignore them, go to object, and then basically what you want is here's an extra camera, which I don't need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of these, right? So I have all these selected. I'm going to put link append from library. I'm going to left click here. Now there you can see the ship came in. I'm not sure why it didn't come with my 3D cursor, but there's the this ship right there. All right, so here's a trick. Whenever you bring a ship in, if you have a problem with different objects being spread out, you can always a lot of times just drag it up into the air and select it. But because our scene is pretty much clear and the ship is right there, all the objects are with the ship, we should be good. Basically, the way the ship is set up, it's set up where all of the objects on the ship are connected to this empty. So if you want to bring something in, you want to use it, I recommend you bring in the objects, specifically if it's something like from Blendswap, and then bring in an empty. And if you have difficulties with this, you can contact me and I'll try to help you out, or maybe even make another tutorial on it. So anyway, I have the ship here, right? So I'm going to grab the empty. The ship is connected to the empty, and I had actually done this a little while ago, but anyway, I'm going to take this ship. I'm going to hit R to rotate on the Z-axis, 90. All right. So now I'm going to take this ship, push it over here, and I'll pull this up a little bit so you can see it. So you can see the ship in the background there. All right. Not make this too big. Okay, so here is my dad. I'm actually going to grab the ship, pull it over here, grab my dad's image, pull it over here. Basically what you're seeing here is I believe that's through the camera. Let me set the camera that's in the scene right on him. I can hit Control Alt number pad 0. And now you can see right there. I'm going to click right in this bottom window. I'm going to hit 0 on my number keypad. That makes the camera mode right there. I'm going to hold shift on my middle mouse button just to pan up on the camera. Now I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. So there's my dad's image. There's the ship. It looks a little bit funny because we don't have any light in the scene. We're in object mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring a new object in. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, move the scene so I come out of camera view mode in this viewpoint. With my cursor up here, I'm going to hit Shift A. That brings up my create menu. I'm going to select plane. Here's the plane. I'm going to hit S to scale. I'm pulling this out, and when I'm doing that, the reason why I'm doing this is going to emit light down on our scene. Okay. In cycles, this is the best way to, in my opinion, to show light. So here's a plane here. I'm going to select materials from here. I'm going to click new. This is what the plane comes in at. The fuse is kind of like just the base Blender material. I'm going to select here. I'm then going to select emission. And if you saw right there, if you caught that, this lit up pretty much as soon as I hit emission because the light is basically coming down on here. So I'll try to get this so you can see this on both. So I'm using this top window. The reason why I have this top window here is because it's easier to control things in the top window, because the top window allows you to see your manipulator, and the bottom window here is set to render. So render allows you to see very close to what this is going to look like in video format, but it takes away your manipulator. All right, so I'm going to select the plane. You can see the orange outline is selected. I'm going to hit S to scale. I'm going to scale this down. I don't want to scale it too big because I don't lose the detail of my father's face. So I'm going to put him up. I'm now going to select the empty of which this ship is connected to. All of the stuff of this ship is connected to this empty. So when I scale the empty up, the ship actually gets bigger. And now I'm just going to move the ship up to start to position it to basically get my dad to be prepared to go in the cockpit. Oops, that took it up too far. Okay, one of the things we're going to do to position his PNG better in there, I'm going to grab it right here, take my manipulator, put it right to the center. And I'm going to take this cockpit and I'm going to maneuver the top, take the top of it off. So I'm going to hit, I'm in object mode in Blender, all right, which is where you move whole objects around. That's how I was moving this entire ship around. To move individual objects in Blender, you go into edit mode. So I can go into edit mode either by clicking here and go into edit mode or hitting the tab key. I'm going to hit the tab key. This takes me into edit mode. For this thing right, for my way of selecting now, I'm going to select all of this stuff right here. I can either click on it like this. In Blender, you select in vertices, edges, or faces. I want to grab all these faces, but I don't want to hold shift. Like I can select faces. I can click here, hold shift, hold shift, hold shift. You know, it's kind of tedious. There's another way to select in Blender, and what that is the paint select. So I'm going to hit C. Gives me this window right here. We used it, you know, a little bit before in this tutorial, or something like it. Actually, anyway, you roll your mouse wheel after hitting C. It allows you to change your area that you're going to paint on, and I want to paint all of this area right here, the cockpit area. And the reason why I want to paint this is so that I can basically lift it up out of the way. Put my dad in here. If you select something you don't want in the cockpit here, oh, by the way, if you're getting problems with jumping, where you roll your mouse and you jump far, like it, see that jump right there? Hold Control and then hold your mouse and just push and pull out, and you'll get smooth, a smooth zoom in. Now I'll hold Shift in the middle mouse button and pan down. I don't want this selected, so I'm holding Shift and just selecting them. When something's selected and you hold Shift and click on it, you deselect it. Okay, so there's this whole window is selected there. The reason why I'm only selecting half of this window is because this ship is currently has a mirror modifier on it, which means that actually only half of the ship is there, but the mirror modifier makes it look like this other half is there. So we only have to select half of the cockpit window to lift it out. Okay, I'm just going to turn this to the side a little bit more. I'm going to hit actually hit Z just to make sure I have everything selected. Looks like I don't. So I'm going to zoom in very close to here. I'm going to hit C yet again, and now I can see that black actually wasn't selected. Some black up here, not selected. Okay, so now it looks like we actually have, you know, the cockpit pieces that we need. Hopefully I didn't grab too much. Alright, so I'm going to hit Z to go back into solid mode. Here's one piece I didn't want. I'm just holding Shift and select to get rid of that. Right now what I'm going to do is hit the Y key, which is we're still in edit mode. Very important to remember that. I'm going to hit Y. And the Y key gives you the split command. So what it should do is, yep, it lets me lift the cockpit right up. And I'm just going to temporarily lift it up just so I can position my dad better. I'm holding the middle mouse button, turning to the side. I'm going to use this to maneuver again. Look here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift, hold my middle mouse button, and just zoom into that cockpit. All right, so what I'm going to do now is hit tab to go back into edit mode, which allows me to grab this PNG sequence. So I'm able to move it like a PNG, even though it's actually a PNG sequence. So I'm going to hit S to scale it down, and you kind of want to imagine your, look at the size of whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a tank, a fighter, imagine how you want them to how you want them to look. So he's there, and I'm imagining, his head is just coming up above. You don't want it too big, don't want it too small. So his legs, I can imagine here, so he still looks kind of big for it. So we'll shrink him down a little bit more. So now I can imagine his body, being here, his legs coming out here, maybe a little bit smaller. So I'm going to push him down so he's kind of seated in there. We'll push him forward a little bit so we can imagine like there was a seat coming up here, and maybe that's a little bit too small. Let's see, his legs would be here. Well, that's a scale, make him a little bit bigger. Yeah. That's pretty good there. So if I zoom in here, this greenness you see is by the is because of the cycle sample that we have set it on. We have it set at a very low sample rate just to make this smooth. But what we can do here is just move our timeline. It's going to go grainy for a second, but you can see my dad, animating, looking around, and it looks pretty good. You can position whoever you have in your ship, however you want. Okay, now what we want to do is, we need to put this cockpit back on there. So here's the cockpit here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to hit, we're going to select this ship with the cockpit. Actually, let me not confuse you. Okay, we're still in object mode. So what we're going to do is make sure we select this image right here, this image sequence, which is as an images plane right here. And what we're going to do here is we have this empty here, and this empty basically has the entire ship connected to it. So with this plane here, what we're going to do is connect this plane to the empty. So when we move the empty, we move the ship. Once we take this image sequence and connect it to the empty, moving the empty will move the ship and the image sequence, so they'll move like they're one unit, which allows us to easily, animate and go where we want. So I have the image selected here. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to select the empty here. Now I'm going to hit Control P. All right, and I want to select Object, Keep Transform. And now, basically, when I have this selected, just the empty, and have my manipulator, now you can see that as that moves forward, my dad's PNG is right there, and as we animate through the timeline, as it's moving, you'll see him, animating as well with it. So now we want to put the cockpit back down on him, and to do that and have it look decently, we're going to select the assault craft here again. We're going to hit tab to go into its edit mode. You can see it still has us selected the cockpit right there. If I push this down, you can see it's gray. Now what we need to do is we'll push this into place. Okay, there it goes, and we need to make it see-through. So the way we're going to do that is we're on our material panel here. All right. So what we're going to do with this material panel goes into the whole. When we first came in and we went into our node editor, we're not going in the node editor, don't worry. We're not going back in, don't worry. When we first came into the node editor, we were on the materials. This right here correlates to the node editor, but we don't have to go back in here to adjust it. So I'm just going to show you here what you need to do to make this transparent so it looks kind of like glass, but you can see through at the same time. Okay, let me turn here so you can see. So all this is selected here, right? So this yellow material is on here, and we'll probably tone this down so it looks a little bit more realistic. But here's this yellow material on the body, all right? And that yellow material wasn't placed on here. We want to place just this material here. We want to turn this to a glass-like material. So what we're going to do is we're in our material node right here with this selected. Here's this node setup that is for this yellow, and you can see the yellow color right there. You're going to click this plus button, and I recommend, click it again just to make sure. Sometimes Blender, you guys can help me out with this. Sometimes it doesn't seem to, the first click, even though I see it here, sometimes for me it doesn't seem like it makes a totally new, no material there. But anyway, with that made, what you're going to do is you're going to select here, click new. You're going to go to this diffuse. You're going to select here. You're then going to go to mix shader. Okay, with the mix shader, you're going to go see these two shaders right here. So the mix shader just can, basically the shader is fancy for color. All right, that's all it means. So here we selected the mix shader. Here's the factor. That's fine. You're going to go to this first shader, which is like saying first color, second color. There's none right here. You're going to click this. You're going to go to glossy. You're going to go to Beckman. You're going to change this to sharp. Don't let it get to you. It's not, confusing really. It's just, all it is color, glossy, and then sharp. Okay, now what we're going to do for this second shader that still has none because we didn't select anything, we're going to go here and we're going to click transparent. And now that with this transparent, what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to apply this material just to what we have selected here. Just to what we have selected here. So we have just the cockpit selected here. So when I click assign, this will just assign this material we just made to here. Okay, so I'm going to click assign, and now there you can see my dad actually in the window there a little bit. And now we're going to make this more transparent. Okay, the way we're going to make this more transparent is actually pretty simple. So I'm actually going to hold shift and hold my middle mouse button. It lets me pan. I'm going to zoom in so you can see right where my dad is at. You see, I'm going to turn the samples up here so you can actually see this a little bit better. So temporarily, I'm going to click render, and I'm actually going to take my, I'm going to look down the sample. The samples are what allows this to look clear. This grain here is because this sample is only set to the preview of 10. The preview is inside of Blender cycle area, and it allows us to see what this will look like when we actually render it out. The render is the actual render. So I'm going to change this to 100. And basically when I click the 100, if you look in this corner, see this right here, that 100, this number racing up to meet that 100. This number is allowing this to just get clearer and clearer and clearer as it goes towards 100. All right. So back to the glass. To make the glass look more transparent, we go back to our materials, and basically it's pretty simple. With this mix shader here, this is allowing this to look transparent. We want to go to this top one here. Basically what's happening there, this is two colors being mixed. By turning this white color down to less white, it'll make it more transparent. So we just click here. Here's the light and dark slider here. We'll just slide this down, and you see that as we slide it down, it looks more transparent. And the grain, again, if you look here, you can see it racing up. So by taking it down, it looks like now we have like some kind of transparent glass. It's not totally clear, but you can see that it's glass, and you can see my dad, in there, animating pretty clearly, looking around his fighter ship. If you want it, and again, you'll control the clarity by how much you take that down. So I'll make it a little teeny bit clearer. When I say clear, I mean more transparent. So I like that there because we can clearly see he's inside of this thing. He's inside there. And it's funny, up here you can actually see his PNG is actually inside there. So technically he is inside of this thing. But again, you control it. You take it up, it'll get more cloudy. Take it down, it'll get less cloudy. And now I'm actually going to click back on the ship part, and I'm going to take this down a little bit. So now I'm like, here's the yellow material. I'm just going to adjust it since we're in here. And I'm actually going to just tone it down some as far as the color, so it's not quite so yellow. And see how this is very shiny? I actually can control the shininess of that by taking this roughness up, and this will make it not look quite whoops, I don't want that. I can take this roughness up, and it'll make it not look quite as shiny. Let's zoom it back, see what it looks like. Let me not get too crazy. You can get caught up very quickly and this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys how to do a basic animation with this. Okay, and to do that, what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom back in this top view here. Remember, wherever your cursor is at is where your image comes in. I'm going to put right here. All right, and to see that, it looked like I was putting in the background. That's why in 3D, you got to, hold your middle mouse button, zoom around, and then click right here because I want an image to come in over there. Now what I'm going to do is, and we can see, what's going on here with that cursor right there. All right. And I'm going to show you that here's our camera right here. So it's almost like you can imagine a little cameraman. What we're going to do is hit File, Import, Images as Planes. This is a pretty quick, basic way to get a background in without getting super complicated. I have this background of space here. I make sure I have my image and transmission turned on here, my DPI. It's selected. I put images, import images as planes. Remember, it comes in very small. So it's selected. And if we look here, when it comes in, it's automatically selected. So there's outer space. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R to rotate on the X-axis. 9-0, even barely being able to see it because I'm selected. I know that'll make it stand up. Now I'm going to hit S to scale. I'm going to pull this out. S to scale. Pull it out. S to scale. There we go. And now basically what I'm going to do is with my viewpoint right here, I'm going to hit the 0 key so that I can see my, what my camera sees is there. Make sure. Okay, so my camera, that's what my camera is seeing. And if I move my, that's not what my camera's seeing. Okay, there's what the camera is seeing right there. Okay, there we go. There's our camera view right here. So this is actually what this is going to look like when it's rendered out. So I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to hold my middle mouse button just to turn to get out of that camera view. See these dotted lines? These dotted lines are showing us what the camera is seeing. So one of the things we want to do is select this space. We're going to hit S to scale to make it even bigger. We'll move it over a little bit. We'll make it even bigger. I think I'm going to hit S to scale on the X-axis and stretch it out some. We got some room to play with as far as the camera is concerned. Okay, something else we're going to do to make this quick animation a little bit easier. Empties are very useful things. The empty, basically all an empty is an empty is a non-renderable object. And you might sit there and say, well, what is the use of having an empty? I forget what they were called in After Effects. It was something very similar to empty. But anyway, the empty allows you to put things to it and control things to it. So we're controlling right now. We're using the empty to control the assault craft and my dad's image sequence, right? Something else that's extremely useful for this and other things is if you select this camera, so we're going to select the camera, left click, right? Hold shift, now we're going to select the empty. What we're going to do with this empty is we're going to make the camera aim at this empty. So it's important in order. First you select the camera, then the empty, right? Once you do that, you hit Control T. This make track panel comes up. You click track to constraint. And basically what this is now when I click this camera, as I move the camera always stays aimed at that empty. And you can see from the bottom screen there, that camera is always looking. So it's almost like it's almost like when you do the make constraint, you're telling the cameraman, stay focused on that ship. Whatever it does, whether it does maneuvers, whatever, focus on it. And it's very useful. So we got this empty doing a bunch of different things now. Okay, something else we need to do is we're going to zoom back here. We're going to be basically, flying the ship past this this empty, like from here to here, most likely. So here's our light right here, right? So we want the light to stretch from here to here. So we're going to hit S to scale on the X-axis, and we're going to stretch out that light. I'm just pulling my mouse, and I'm just going to pull here so it covers that whole distance. But you can see here it's visible in the camera view. All right. So one of the things that's awesome about Cycles is Cycles allows you to see what's going on as far as your view. I mean, what your render is going to be like. So you can see, we can see this light right here. Now that's easy to deal with as well. We want the light coming down to hit the top of the ship, but we don't want to see the light there. And the way we deal with that is we make sure we have the light selected like we do there. We go right here to this object data button, or object display data button. Right here, the little yellow cube. We click here. This is the data button. This is the object display button. But anyway, with the little cube here, and you're going to scale all the way down. And you see where this thing where it says ray visibility. When you click here, this allows you to see what allows you to adjust the light coming from here. So without getting too deep, basically with this selected, by clicking here, now the light is still there. It's still emitting light, but yet it's invisible to the camera. Okay, now we can get to the actual animation. Typically, when you animate, my belief is you want to start with the end before the beginning. So what we're actually going to do, let me zoom back here. We're going to grab this empty, which is controlling the ship. And remember, the spaceship is, let me zoom in to make it easier so you see it. The spaceship is parented to here, which means whenever I move this, the ship will move. And then the image sequence is inside of the ship, but it's also parented to this empty. So whenever I move it, the ship moves and the image sequence, moves. So basically, I'm going to take this. I'm going to go to where I want the end to be. I'm going to grab. I have the empty selected. I'm going to grab the manipulator. I'm going to pull this all the way over. Now you can see that the in the back there, basically what's going on is on the second screen. What's going on there? This camera is also parented to this empty. It's not parented to, well, it's not parented to it to move with it. It's parented to it to aim at it. So what we're going to do is grab the camera, and we're just going to pull this over, and it's the camera, wherever we put it, just going to be aimed at that empty. Now remember, we have this second view. The main thing for it here is for it just to be easy for us to move because we have our manipulator here and not in the camera. We spent all that work. Oh, now we're going to have a problem. Ugh. Because the empty is not going to let me zoom in. I can already see. Okay, fine. Basically what's going on now is I took the easy solution. Here's the empty controlling everything. I hooked the camera up to the empty. The camera's not going to let me. The camera's aimed directly on the empty and not where I want it to be, which is the cockpit. So what I'm going to do is, sometimes these things can be good, annoying but good for you to see. I made a mistake yet again during this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is with this camera selected, I'm going to hold shift, select the empty. Remember, Blender remembers order. Now I'm going to hit Alt-T. And that means clear track. All right. So I'm going to clear the track. You see the camera jump. Now what I want to do is I'm going to select this empty here with the empty selected. I'm going to, actually, let me hit A to deselect. I'm going to select the empty here. So the empty is selected. I cleared the track by hitting Alt-T. Now I'm going to hit Shift S, and then I'm going to push cursor to selected. Cursor jumped right to the center of this empty. Now what I'm going to do is hit Shift A, and we're in object mode. I'm going to go to empty and bring in another. And maybe this is good. You guys can see how you actually bring an empty in. But here's Shift A. I'm going to empty. Now I'm going to go to circle, which is what I like to use for empties. Another circle pops in. I'm going to make that circle smaller. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. So there's the empty. And what I want is this empty right centered on the cockpit. And you can see it right there. So I'm hitting S to scale the empty to make the empty smaller. I want to be able to aim the camera right to where my dad is seated. So it's here. So here is this empty here. All right. So we brought this empty in, right? So now with this empty selected, I'm going to hit Shift, hold Shift, and select this other empty, right? Now I'm going to hit Control P, keep transform. So now this empty here, which is a non-renderable object, it just means that we won't see it on the camera, yet it exists in 3D space. This empty is parented to this empty, just like the ship is, just like my dad's image sequence is. Okay, so whenever this empty moves, this empty will move. Okay, the reason why we did that is because now with this empty being small, we're able to aim the camera exactly where we want, where I want it to go right on the cockpit. So now we're going to select the camera. We'll zoom in close. And we will select this, hold shift and select this empty. So now we selected the camera first. Then second to empty, which is what you need. Now we're going to hit Control T, track to constraint, and now the camera will aim directly at that empty, which happens to be right next to where my dad is at. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start at the end from the beginning. We're going to pull this camera in very close. We spent all that time. Oh, wait a second. What's going on here? Can I grab that empty? Oh, I'm moving the empty back. So let me hit Control Z. Yet another mistake. Okay, I just want just the camera, not the empty. Okay, there we go. For whatever, I had the camera and the empty selected, I guess. So now I have the camera nice and close. And what I want is I'm pulling this thing all the way in. Right close. And I want it to be, we spent all that time getting this PNG in here. So I'm zooming in on the camera. I just want to make sure. I want the camera pretty much being right on my dad. And then see how the empty is still with the camera, he's kind of off. I want the cockpit more. What I can do is I can go in. Here's the camera. I can actually make the camera zoom. I don't want to. I'm trying to keep it fairly simple. So anyway, so I have this empty selected now, right? There's the okay. To see this empty right here, when you have something parented to something else, you will only see, typically you'll see the parent. So here is the parent, which is this empty right here. When I click here, I get to see all the other objects parented to it. So here is the, okay, there's another empty actually right there. Here's the empty right here. All right, so I can actually use this empty to, by selecting here, I'm going to actually double click here, name this target. And basically this, I can actually aim the camera. I'll show you this. So this is actually going to, I'll show you how to do it. I'm going to pull the camera actually back, all right? So I'm going to select the camera, take the manipulator, pull the camera back. With the camera selected, and with it aimed the right way, I can select this camera right here, and then I can actually use this focal point to zoom. So what I'm going to do is actually zoom in, use it to zoom in, rather than moving it up, which I guess is still pretty big on there. So I'll click this focal length and I'll zoom in to where I want it to go, right on my dad. A lot of times my wife, she'll say, how long is the tutorial going to take? I'm like, this is not that hard. It's quick. Very quick. You're right. That's not, still not a... Alright, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to select the camera mover, move it back so it's right on my dad. It looks crazy, yeah, no. I'll select the camera yet again, the focal point. I should have made him probably this small. Keep zooming in. I believe this was at 35, it's when we need to go back. Because I want it, we spent that time zooming in. I want it to be on him. I want you to be able to see him moving, as this short 9-second clip comes to an end. So I want it, pretty much right on him. So I'm actually going to take the camera, select the camera, select the manipulator, push it down just slightly, because I want you to see that he's in the cockpit and be able to see the stuff around him. So with all this stuff here, what I'm actually going to do is we are at, let's see. Yeah, I want it to be about, because we're at 29 frames a second. So from here to here is basically 1 second. So we have 2 seconds. I want there to be about, we'll go from 140 pretty much there. As a matter of fact, we have to set this into 266. So we'll go from 180. Okay, we'll say right here. We'll say 190. So what I'm going to do here, I have the camera set here for 190. What I'm going to do is I am going to with the camera selected, I'm going to hit I. I'm going to hit I for the camera. I'm going to select location rotation for the camera. I am also going to, for the focal point, I'm going to hit I. I'm going to hold my mouse button over this focal point. I'm going to hit I. Basically, what it's doing is it's setting keyframes for right here, right at frame 190, saying that I want these things to be locked in this place right here at frame 90, at 190. I mean. Okay, now so I want the ship to be here at this point, so I'm going to select this empty here, which is controlling pretty much everything. I'm going to hit I to put a keyframe in here for location, rotation, scale. I'm going to take this up to, we'll take this up to about 210. Actually wanted to zoom in even closer. So I'm going to select the camera, go to focal point, take it up even more. And again, the grain there is because of the sampling. So don't let that get you. We can set that how we want it for the render. All right. So now I want this to be here at 210. So I'm going to hit I. All right. So now, and again, my recommendation to you is to start at the end before the beginning. We almost started at the end. I started here, then move there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work our way backwards. We have a zoom up, a zoom in of my dad there. We have it even zoomed in even more here. So what we're going to do is, you can see right there when I move the timeline indicator, it's zooming in even more. We'll take it to 160 here. We'll take it to we'll take it to 160. And what we'll do is we'll pull the camera back even more. And let me get my view. So pull back even more. I'm going to click. Let me click here and put 35. Okay, yeah. So we have it. So it'll go. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our cursor over here. We're going to hit I. With the camera selected, we're going to hit I. Location, rotation, scale. So keyframe is put for this particular slider. When you move the mouse over a slider and hit I, you set a keyframe for just this slider here. And then for here, you normally have to put location, rotation, scale. I set it for location, rotation here. And when we move the slider, we can see it zoom in all the way in like that, right? So now let's go all the way back to the beginning. So basically, we moved it back to frame. I will start off at frame 2. I don't like starting off exactly at the beginning of the film, though that's so close it might as well be. Anyway, I'm going to take my middle mouse button and hold, zoom back so I can see, and I grab the empty, which remember everything is hooked up to almost everything's hooked up to the empty except the camera. I'm going to push this back, right? So we're just ignoring this for now. We'll deal with the set camera in a second. We're pushing this back to where the near where the space starts. Now we're going to grab the camera, take a manipulator, push this back, make sure that it's in frame. Let's grab the empty here. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. And if you want to temporarily make this window the biggest thing, you can hit shift space and it'll make this window fill up everything temporarily. What I'm going to do is hit R to rotate on the, is it x-axis? Yeah. Because I want this to come in like that. It's hard to see. I want it to be on its side coming in. So I'm going to hit shift space to go back to where we were before. So here we'll start off with it like this. So we'll hit I to rotate. I, then location, rotation, scale to insert a frame right here. And just with those T keyframes, not that we're going to end it here, but you can see that the camera has to. This is the keyframe is set from here, but the keyframe isn't set for the camera. So because when I move this keyframe, the camera automatically jumped to its last keyframe. So what we have to do is grab the camera, put the camera where we want it to be here. We'll put the camera like kind of like here. That'd be kind of cool to start with. We just got to watch, see that edge right there? So we'll just take the camera up so it's still in the space. So now we'll hit I, location, rotation, scale for the camera. And now we'll see how it goes just from here. Then we can see the camera, you know, tracking the ship. And then it zooms in and it gives you a little look at my dad looking around inside of the ship. And what we actually can do here that's kind of cool. I mean, we have all kinds of options here. You zoom in here. How clear is this thing getting when it gets up there? That's pretty clear. I'm actually going to... that's good. Alright, so anyway, we have these keyframes set, which aren't, you know, that's actually not too bad. So what we'll do is we'll, you know, have this ship go here. And while it's here, what the heck, we'll have it spin the other way. So we'll select the, let's make it go a little bit more. We'll have it select the empty here. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Hitting R to rotate on the x-axis. Now we'll have it kind of like swivel, like we'll have it down like maybe R, X, up like that. And then hit I to insert a keyframe for location and rotation. So let's see how that looks. So you can see him kind of like, you know, swiveling up. Then he kind of like goes down. Yeah, it's not bad. Then he comes and it zooms in, you know, close. Then you can see him looking around. Okay, and we're almost done. So we pretty much, we have our camera motion in there. We have our camera, you know, tracking our ship. Yeah, my dad's in there, and we'll render this out so you should be able to see him in the ship a little bit, and then it zooms in. And the one thing that is pretty much going on is the space stops moving because the ship stops moving. Let's zoom back here. When does this ship stop moving? Okay, so the ship, yeah, stops moving here. Right at that frame. Then what we can actually do is, since we already have it set in, I want it to be right on my dad. I mean, we could play. A simple thing you can do is, you know, obviously, whenever you're done with this project, 3D project, whatever, you know, however much time you put in you'll get a better result. What I'm going to do here is we stop moving here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a keyframe. You know what? I am going to I'm actually going to go back a couple frames. I'm going to, with this background image texture selected, I'm going to hit I to insert a keyframe, location, rotation, scale. I'm going to select this empty so I can see where it stopped again. So it stopped at what? It was 190. So now what I'm just going to do is I am going to take this to the end, which is 266, and I'm just going to actually zoom out. Well, don't let me zoom out so far there. I'm going to, with this plane selected, I'm actually going to just grab this frame and push this back, and I'll take it right to the edge of where the camera point is right here. So now I'll just hit I to insert location, rotation, scale. So now what should happen, as far as the view of my dad is moving, then it gets up to him, and yet you can still see the space moving with him, even as it zooms in. And I guess, you know what I'm actually going to do with that. Let's see if we can actually, I'm actually going to go here to this keyframe right here. So we have this end keyframe, so we know we're going to have enough space here. So what we'll do is we'll go to this keyframe right here. We'll actually pull this down, if you look right here, this is new for Windows 2.70. This says animation. We're selected on here. Basically, this has its own keyframe. So right now, this object has two keyframes on it. A keyframe right here at 180 and a keyframe at 266. I'm actually going to remove this keyframe. The way I'm going to do that is with this selected, I'm going to click remove and then delete keyframe. So now with that, I am going to go backwards. Oh, so we got to watch out for that right there. So we'll just grab this, move this up here. We'll hit I for location rotation scale. Make sure, yeah. We'll take this back to here. Good, it's just in frame. We'll start off at 2. And then we'll actually, what the heck, we'll push this actually back some. I might even push it up. Give us some more movement. Not a big thing. So we'll hit I, location rotation scale. So now, you know, as we come in, we have some movement with the space along with the ship. Still, everything's in camera frame. And then we come up, we come near the edge, and space is still moving right into the edge of the camera frame. Okay, so now what we would do to get this out is we would just go to our render button here, and we want to make sure that we already have it set up. So we have H2.64 format MPEG 4. We have it set up if we had sound, which we don't, for MPEG 3. And then we have it set up to go for video output already. And now what we do is we have it set up start frame, end frame 266. Now one other thing you want to do is, depending on how you want the samples to be, because this is 100 samples right here. So depending on how good, we'll render this out at go ahead and render it at 100 samples. So now we just, with all that set up, we just go to animation. And you can see it. Oh crap. Oh, I messed up again, people. Okay, fine. With the mess up that I just did, and this should tell you what. See this right here, it's on preview 100. The renders is 10. So the renders are rendering very fast because it's only on 10. We want to make sure, we want to set this to 100. I am sorry. Okay, now, like I messed up before, I messed up here, so it would write over. It just makes me feel better to make a new folder. So I'm going to hit create new directory, video output 2. Left click to get inside of it, hit accept, and now come back out and select animation again, and now we say okay, there we go. It's giving us going up to 100 samples there. It's starting to do its render out. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. I hope you learned from this that you can do special effects, and you can actually do it without a green screen. This should hopefully give you a basic intro into what is possible through the amazing things you can do with Blender. If you put some more time into this, you could, instead of just having a plane for space, you could have particles where you could make the space that you have a ship like this traveling through seem more 3D, and you could even put maybe even put gases going through, and of course like jets coming out the back of the ship. But again, hopefully this gave you an idea of what's possible. Again, this video was done without quote unquote in actual green screen, which I think is pretty cool. For all you out there who support this channel, thank you greatly. Bob Love, who, as I'm struggling through these videos and wondering if they're going to be, how they're going to be accepted. Bob, love your comments and constant encouragement. Helps me make it through these videos, and I appreciate it. For all you guys who leave comments, I greatly appreciate it. And for all you new people that are new to this channel, if you like this video and you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.